The buzz is only getting greater about what Germany is considering doing with their gold that could set the stage for a massive shift in the global gold order. He who owns the gold makes the rules, and Germany knows this. Let's talk about it as we explore. Germany owns the second largest amount of gold in the world. However, they don't have all of their gold. It is in other places, such as in Germany, France, and London. But that could change soon, as I've reported on this channel a few weeks ago. I'm going to link to that video at the end screen of this one, so I hope you will check that out to revisit my reporting on this. But this is a piece that was sent to me by Tony Erickson, and others have actually chimed in as well, because the news cycle is not slowing down with regards to Germany and its shift to gold. The story is spreading like wildfire because it's a big deal to actually repatriate all of the gold that they have when they made headlines for moving much less, starting in 2013 rather. Yes, 1913. That was a Freudian slip. Most of you know what that date means. That's when we moved more and more away from gold, starting with the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. Yes, indeed. That set the stage for this debt instrument, of which during a time up until 1933, when the gold was confiscated through Executive Order 6102, there was a time when these notes circulated along with gold-backed notes and silver-backed notes. But this is about what Germany is doing to reset the order, I think. Fascinating. But before we move any further, it's a good idea for us to be our own central bank and to patriate our own gold for our own holdings. Yes, indeed. And one place I like to go, and I've bought from and will continue to buy from, is channel sponsor Summit Metals. Now, you may say, well, of course you're going to buy from them because they sponsor you. Yes, indeed. However, they have proven themselves, and they would have come under my radar regardless, because they are very fast growing, but also have continued to have some of the lowest prices out there, especially for fractional gold. And I'm in the process of filling this thing up with some gold gram bars, and going to have another one on the way here. But this is the wallet. This is also exclusive to Summit Metals, where you can get different wallets for different size gold pieces, fractional. So they have 10th ounce, quarter ounce, half ounce size, as well as these gram wallets here. So check them out. Really cool. Business card size. This thing is really neat. So what's going on here with Germany? They are indeed really considering repatriating their gold. For years, Germany has been quietly doing so with its gold reserves from foreign vaults, particularly those in the U.S. and Federal Reserve. And actually, they're stored under the Fed's watchful eye in New York, but officially the move is framed as a routine realignment of reserves for better liquidity and security. But what if there's more to the story? And that's kind of why I think some of this stuff is really blowing up in the media. What if Germany's gold withdrawal isn't just about gold, but about deeper geopolitical and economic shifts, especially with what we've been seeing recently with the stock market, and even with the fall of precious metal prices? And this could be a contender as to what's going on here. Since 2013, Germany's Bundesbank has been bringing home hundreds of tons of gold stored in New York, London, and Paris. By 2020, it had relocated 337 billion euros worth of gold back to Frankfurt. While officials insist this is about risk diversification, skeptics argue that the move signals declining trust in the U.S.-dominated dollar system. So why would Germany distrust the U.S. Fed with their gold in New York? It's one of the most stable, secure facilities on the planet. Well, rumors have been swirled around that the Fed leases out foreign gold or uses it as collateral. So, if true, Germany might worry that its reserves aren't fully secure. In other words, a question of whether or not they truly own it. And that's why the word rehypothecation started making waves around 2013 through 2016. I talked about it on this channel. It's also been in other major and alternative media outlets. The second reason is the dollar's dominance is now more in question than it has been in quite a long time, especially with the BRICS nations pushing for de-dollarization. Germany may be hedging against a future where the dollar isn't the world's sole reserve currency. And even now, here in 2025, with a good concerted effort to bring to an end the Russia-Ukraine war, and that is still something that is on a lot of these countries' minds about de-dollarization, because, administrations change and foreign policy changes from administration to administration. So you have to have something that is an anchor of trust, such as the Dutch central bank says about gold. And so, therefore, it is a good idea for many of these nations, including the United States, by the way, to have and to hold gold. And, of course, disagreements over geopolitical tensions we see that are continuing to widen. U.S.-Europe relations have been strained for trade wars, sanctions on Russia, disagreements over NATO spending. Repatriating gold could be a subtle assertion of financial independence. And then it's a signal to the world. Germany is not alone. The Netherlands, Austria, Turkey, and even Venezuela have moved gold home in recent years. If more nations follow, it could trigger a global gold rush, weakening confidence in the dollar-backed financial system. And also, it should be of note, there's another member of the community sent me a link to a story about some of these nations that are de-dollarizing, wanting to move completely away from the dollar, some by choice, some by sanction. But nonetheless, it's still a move in that direction. And I think we're seeing active moves in some of those areas and some of these other nations that could grow. And the question is here that what kind of signal does this send to the world? It could essentially mean that other nations see that it was successful in Germany and they may take efforts to move in that direction. But what if the gold isn't even there? Conspiracy theorists speculate that some of the gold might have been sold, leased, or even lost. When Germany initially requested to inspect its U.S.-held gold back in 2012, the Fed reportedly refused, fueling suspicions. While the Bundesbank later confirmed audits, the secrecy left lingering doubts. And then we have to think about the big picture about what could be starting here. The beginnings of a financial revolution is what many people feel is starting to take place right now. If Germany's gold withdrawal is part of a broader shift away from U.S. financial hegemony, we could be witnessing the early stages of a new monetary order, with central banks stockpiling gold at record rates and cryptocurrencies emerging as alternatives. The era of dollar supremacy may face its greatest challenge yet. So there's things that are happening right now, folks, and that's just one of the reasons why this channel exists, is to bring you the latest news in the world of precious metals and how the world of finance can collide with them. And through this time of a great change that's occurring. And I think what we're seeing now very well could be the beginning of something big, or if not something big, at least a reinvigoration of what we have, and maybe even a strengthening of what we've got, but in a different way, utilizing, in a sense, the understanding and appreciation of gold as a way to have a stable store of value. And really a lot of this, in a sense, began back in April of 2019, when the Bank of International Settlements set gold as a Tier 1 asset, putting it equal to and on par with the U.S. dollar. So that is pretty big news for sure. And of course, now the repercussions of it we're seeing play out. And I think in a sense and in a way, Germany is acting upon that, because there's more to this than meets the eye. Germany's gold repatriation may seem like a technical adjustment, but history shows that gold movements often precede major financial upheavals. Whether this is about prudence, distrust, or preparation for a post-dollar world, one thing is clear: the global monetary system is changing, and gold is at the heart of it. And I do agree with that. And of course, this does not mean that there's going to be, a major crash or a major financial, upheaval in the immediate term. But I think they're setting themselves up for the possibility that could happen. And they want to be on the front end of it and have the gold in their possession. Because if something like that big does happen, and they don't have access to the gold, well, you know what they say, he who owns the gold makes the rules. Well, if the New York Fed has the gold and has the gold of many other nations, and they are in the driver's seat and not these other nations and the gold reserves. So that, I think, is a part and parcel as to why Germany is making this move. Potentially making this move. We still don't know for sure yet if they're going to do it. But I think there's more and more talk about it. I think it is quite a realistic possibility that it could occur. We'll certainly find out in due course. And in the meantime, what kind of lesson does this send to you and I? Well, I think it's a good idea to, instead of have counterparty risk with your gold, have single party risk. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what single party risk means, because I think I'm the only channel that talks about single party risk. Yes, there's risk in everything in life, and there's risk in holding your own gold. Now, the Bundesbank should know this. As they prepare to take in a massive amount of their gold into Frankfurt and store in vaults there, they got to make sure those vaults are secure. And that is one of the things, based off of another video I talked about the world's gold reserves and how they are stored and where they are stored in massive amounts of security. I cannot stress upon you enough how important security is to make sure that your gold is protected. But more importantly, yourselves and your family are protected. Because some people, they don't care about life in order to get to the gold. So you need to have multiple levels of security. And that includes surveillance and alarm systems that could operate in the case of a power or internet outage. You also have to be able to protect against sort of hacking attacks in on some of those systems, especially if they use the internet. With coverage all over the place, not only inside but outside on your property. Very, very important that you have that in place. Number two, you should have some system in place, not only in terms of alarms, but if people happen to get in while you're home, yes, dare I say it, and I think this is extremely important, a set of booby traps. Yes, that's right. It's something I'm looking into, just in case. Now, I think the best thing to do is to not set yourself up to be a target. And I think if you can do it and have the ability to do so, such as I, is to not have your gold stored at your location. And I know that runs contrary because you're reintroducing counterparty risk. But that counterparty risk is based off of organizations and institutions and individuals that you trust and have easy access to if you need them, such as the case here. I was able to get this gold from that location, from the other location. And so if you don't have it in your location, you remove yourself as a target, at least in part. But nonetheless, it's good to be protected no matter what, and that includes being well armed. And I'm encouraging everybody to learn firearm safety and have a gun hidden in a strategic place in every single room of the house, loaded and ready to go, so that if somebody were to enter, they have entered your domain, well, you eliminate that threat. You must assume the worst when somebody enters your home unwelcomed, and so you should be prepared for that possibility and be heavily armed, and that includes understanding your firearms, knowing how to use them, and also having plenty of ammunition nearby to be able to reload if needed. And so it's extremely important to have security. And it's really not so much about the gold, it's about your own personal safety and your family's safety. That is paramount, folks. You do not want to set yourself up to be a target. So you must be prepared in every way, shape, or form about nefarious characters that very well may make their way. I mean, this is such an important subject. I like to bring it up every now and then. And of course, in the case of central banks, well, they have the full authority and the resources of the state to be able to make that so. But believe you me, some have tried, even though those systems have been in place. and some will still try. So Germany is certainly thinking about that, not only in terms of where it's going to be stored in Frankfurt, but on the way to Frankfurt as well. So there you have it. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments section below. Thanks again to Tony Erickson for sending this along to me. And I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.